Hello there folks, back again for another video. In this one I thought I'd take us through the newest Warcry box for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This one is Nightmare Quest, which is the I think it's the final box in the current season or cycle, I suppose, that Games Workshop are running for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And it focuses on a clash around a Realm Shaper engine between the Stormcast Eternals and the Flesh Eater Courts on the other side. The main reason I picked this up is because I'm interested in diving into Warcry, as you've probably seen from a previous video. If not, there'll be a link somewhere for that. And it comes with two pretty awesome looking warbands that I think I could do in the grimdark style. And just thought it would be fun to dive in and pick it up and have essentially a copy of Warcry that I could play with some additional decks at the same time. So fairly big box. Wasn't hard to get hold of it. Apparently it's only 40k stuff that goes missing in action on the Games Workshop web store, but got this from a local seller from where I am called Two Fat Goblins. So if you're around the Stafford area, make sure to go and check them out because they do awesome stuff, and there's discounts and there's lots of fun little stuff in there as well, which is pretty cool. But anyway, Warcry Nightmare Quest. Let's have a look inside. So we have the various sprues and stuff for us to have a look at, starting off with the bits and pieces for the Stormcast Eternals. So the focus here is on the Night Questors, or the Questor Soulsworn, I think they're called, which are your brand new miniatures, and they are led by then the sort of Relictor, who is making sure that they get back home, essentially. See if we can get some close-ups of the stuff on the sprues. So you can see the detail. I mean, this is Games Workshop stuff, so it's fairly detailed all the time, really, isn't it, to be honest? But, you know, pretty good stuff. I think you'll agree. Lots of fine details in here. These are not like push fits like you get for Warhammer Underworld or anything like that. You're actually going to have to glue these together properly. But they should go together fairly nicely, and they'll come with a bunch of different options for you to play around with as well, which is quite nice. So that's one sprue of the Questors, Night Questors, Questor Soulsworn. Here's the second one. So again, lots of different weapons and all sorts on there for you to be playing around with. I think it's trying to focus on the sprues through the sprue, which is an interesting problem for my camera, but there we go. I think if I cover some of the bigger bits, that's all grand. But yeah, pretty nice sprue, pretty detailed, which is all cool. And I really like the look of this warband, so it's nice to have that one there to play around with that I can paint up. We've then got the bits and pieces that make up the Realm Shaper engine, which is the large ziggurat-style building that was found by the Flesh Eater Courts on their hunt, and they believe it's a dragon's nest or a Dracolith's nest that they're trying to destroy. In the case of the Stormcast Eternals, they're just trying to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed, because it could do untold damage to the realm of gore. But there we go. Lots of nice little bits and pieces on there for building your Realm Shaper engine. And there's a second sprue for that. So obviously you're going to need all of these to build up your engine, which is quite nice. Then we have some more of the traditional gnarlwood terrain. So we have a large bit of sort of beast that has been felled, alongside more sort of like of the gnarl oaks, which are the kind of flesh-eating trees that will attack anything that comes near them, and all the different platforms and stuff, which is quite nice. So a good little selection there. And then we've got a couple more sprues. So we've got more terrain at the bottom, but we have all the stuff for the Flesh Eater Courts. So you get the very awesome kind of like Huntmaster, which is your kind of, think of a Strigoi vampire from back in the day. And then you also get a bunch of different ghoul squires and the offal hounds and stuff like that has all been sort of dragged into the quest alongside the Beastmaster, the Flaymaster, or the Beast Flayer. I think it's called Royal Beast Flayer, and stuff like that. So yeah, very grimdark. I mean, for example, this fellow's arm is, they believe they've got like an enchanted weapon taken from the armories or something, but in actual fact it's just a rusty spear or a halberd that's been jammed into the end of their arm, which is typically grimdark and ghoulish, which works very nicely for what I'm trying to do with the schemes and things like that. But yeah, pretty cool. And some more terrain, as you can see. So this is some of the stuff that a lot of people would have seen before. You get some of the ruins of Talaxis, which is the ship that crashed, the Seraphon ship that crashed. But then you've got all the other things like walkways, which can be smashed up and destroyed. Other bits and pieces there as well. Going to be fun to work on those. I'm thinking of attempting it from the point of view of using a lot of what do you call it? Contrast paints, I think, is the way that I'm going to go for that, which is kind of cool. So yeah, nice bits and pieces there. Then we have, I think, so you've got your instruction booklet, which is pretty cool. Looking rather nice. Good stuff there. Shows you how to build all your bits and pieces. And then underneath, lift up this. We have a few extra bits and pieces. So we're going to go through these, and then I realised that I've actually left one of the most important booklets upstairs. So I'll be going to get that later in a second. But so you've got all of your stat cards for the different Knight Questors. So you've got the duelists, and you've got the ones with the Grand Blades that they kept from being Questors. There's your leader, your Relictor. And there's your Questor Prime, or the Prime Questor, whichever way it goes round, holding that lantern, which tells them exactly where they need to go within the realm of Gur. And then you've got all your ghouls, so you've got a few more of them there. And there's a few different types that kind of go from like lowly ghouls through to trackers, the offal hounds, the kind of like squat, like the underlings, and then your sort of real Flaymaster there, as you can see, which is kind of badass. Then we've got all the terrain cards and everything else that you need for setting up your scenarios. So those are all pretty standard stuff, and they're all themed around the Realm Shaper engine and that kind of thing, and placing the terrain that you get in the box. So, you know, you'll be able to use everything that you get in the set, which is always nice to see. And that's tied to a big campaign that you can play as well. And you've got some extra bits and pieces there too. You've also then got the faction cards, which tell you the different fighter types that you get in the box set. So as you can see there, they've got their reaction ability, which is something that they can do innately, which is pretty cool. So the Beast Flayers are able to damage you as you try and disengage from them, which I think is pretty badass. So they're like constantly on the hunt and trying to kill you. And then the Swift Retribution is, there we go. So a fighter can make this reaction when they are targeted by a melee attack action after the damage is total, but before it's allocated to this fighter, if it is enough for this fighter to be taken down, pick another friendly fighter. That fighter makes a bonus move action or a bonus attack action, so they can rush forward and help their friends as they get taken out. And then, of course, on the backs of both of these, we have the abilities. So you've got all the different abilities for the Royal Beast Flayers. So your doubles, triples, and finally the quad. A lot of their stuff is focused around the hunt and getting closer to you to kill you. And then you have the Questor Soulsworn, which is very much about dealing that sort of big hammer blow, whilst also kind of like challenging you and essentially being very knightly, really, which is the par of the course, to be honest. So yeah, so you've got those bits and pieces there. Bases. Everybody loves bases. You've also then got a big old board, which has been designed and photographed based on some of the stuff. So you've either got like this open sort of almost sandy area, and I think on the other side it's got sort of like a darker, this would be it, yeah. So it's got like a darker sort of forest interior, which I think is kind of cool. So you can play around with two different styles, to be honest. And then, because I'm an idiot, I've left something upstairs. So I'm just going to leave this here for you to look at. And yeah, just have a look at that lovely artwork for a second while I vanish and come back without knocking anything over. Oh, God. I'll be quick, I promise. I told you I'd be quick. So yes, now I've left you with that for a little while. We come back to the book itself. Sorry about that. There'll be a little tiny bookmark in there for when I vanish, I suppose. So you don't get the core rules with these box sets. You only get the warband tomes. This one's called Might and Madness, which is tied to the two factions here, Might and Madness. You get a bunch of background and stuff like that. The core rules for Warcry are available online. The other thing, I suppose, is that you'd need to buy the core rulebook if you wanted all of the additional stuff for running campaigns and things like that. But this kind of gives you everything else that you need for essentially playing games with just these two warbands, really. The other thing that's really nice about this is it comes with loads of background too. So throughout this, you'll find some good background on the Soulsworn, the fight for control of the locations like the Realm Shaper engine, and kind of how they came to be, and the state of affairs, to be honest, in the realm of Gore at the moment, and the forest itself. So there's some really fun background in here that really sort of develops the Flesh Eater courts and tells you a little bit more about the way that they fight. And the same goes for the Soulsworn, the Questor Soulsworn as well. And it's quite cool learning a little bit more about their character and how a lot of them have left their jobs as Knight Questors or as other high-ranking officials or mighty warriors within the ranks of Sigmar's armies, and have been assembled by the Questor Prime, really, in the pursuit of destroying something deadly and brutal out there in the wild. The Royal Beast Flayers, by sort of difference, I suppose, are led by these kind of ghouls that have been gifted with vampiric strength and power, and have essentially called forth their squires and the peasants in order to go on some deranged hunt, which is quite nice. And I like that it breaks down how all the different characters in your force kind of blend into it. I think is really cool, because it sort of helps give you a little bit of background to how you build your warband. And one of the best things about Warcry is that it's essentially focused on the narrative side of things, isn't it, really? Which is what a lot of people really want, to be honest. So yeah, get some nice galleries of the stuff as well. So there's all the models, so you can see how they get painted up. And then we dive into the actual rules and how to use the book. You've got a breakdown of their additional rules in here as well, if you want to reference them, which is handy, of course. You've got the new terrain rules, including the Realm Shaper engine that can be used to damage anything around it as sort of power lashes out from the building, or it uses the forest to do that. You actually get some benefits if you're a Seraphon. You don't actually take any damage, or you take reduced damage essentially when you're next to it, which I think is really cool and kind of plays into the narrative a little bit more. You've also got the rest of the terrain rules for the stuff you get in the box. And then there's two different quests for you to go on. So there is one which is very much focused on the battle between the two forces in the box, and it's focused around that storyline. The second of them is a sort of wider ranging campaign, which is actually focused on a 4-player adventure, which is this one, the Realm Shaper Wars. And it's a little bit bigger than your normal campaigns on the tabletop, but allows you to play out bigger clashes between you and your foes. And then there's a breakdown of all of the different battle plan cards as well, so they've kind of repeated themselves in here. But yeah, and then you've got some background stuff for all of your Knight Questors, because obviously they're all mighty heroes. And then you've got one there for the Beast Flayers, who get their own background table. The nice thing about the Questor Soulsworn in this is that they are all counted as heroes, which is pretty badass, because you don't get that in any other warband, because normally they're limited to 3 heroes per warband, whereas in this, every single one of them is a hero. So they can all make use of pretty much everything there, which is pretty badass. But then obviously this is slightly more of a more regular warband, although it's made up of some chumps and things like that. So it's an interesting mix between the two of them, actually, to see which one would come out on top, I suppose. The only thing that I would say is unfortunate, I suppose, is that this doesn't come, like, the core rules are fine. It's fine that they're online, and I like that. The only thing that I wish that this set would come with is some tokens and stuff. Like, I have 1 billion tokens anyway, because I've collected war games for however many years, since I was 11. And so I have tokens and dice and all that kind of thing. But if you are new to the game, and this is going to be like the first set that you pick up, there's no dice, there's no tokens in there. So it's one of those things where you'd have to try and source those. And you can't really buy anything separately at the moment, which is a real shame. I'm kind of hoping that when the new Warcry starter set comes out, which is meant to be fairly soon, that comes with some extra bits and pieces for people to pick up and use in order to play the game. I'm very much hoping that it isn't kind of like a new edition reboot either. That would be annoying, but we shall see what they do. I've obviously not bought the core rulebook. I have the compendium and I have the Warband Tome for this box set, so I'm not necessarily tied to doing anything with new stuff, I guess. But yeah, that's just my only niggle really about the box. Everything else about it is pretty awesome, and I think they've got some good models in here, and it should be fun to dive into it and play. I also have a whole bunch of other stuff to dive into for Warcry as well, which is pretty cool. So I've got a couple more miniatures that I've found, a couple of some resources online as well, which are pretty nice too. But all in all, seems like a pretty good box set to have a look at, especially if you like the 2 warbands, and should be fun to explore the narrative of it. And I'm going to have some fun. But there we go. Warcry. Just wanted to take you through the box and let you know what I thought of it. Overall, pretty good. Just a few things that are a little bit niggling and annoying, but plenty of scope for you to expand. And now I've got some terrain and all sorts of different things for cards and things like that to put onto tabletops. But yeah, other than that, awesome stuff. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do everything you would normally do with YouTube videos. Tell me if you have dived into the world of Warcry yourself. Have you been playing the game? What kind of warbands do you use? Do you like the rules? Is there something you're looking forward to seeing in the future? And everything else in between, really. And hopefully we'll be able to dive into a little bit of a dialogue and have a chat about the game. Been very inspired by Arbiter Ian still, and the series that he's doing with his companions. So make sure to go and check that out as well. The second video came out over the weekend, so I'll make sure to link that down below so you can go and have a look at it. So yeah, pretty cool. Warcry, boom, awesome. The journey begins now. Look at all the grimdark goodness here. Oh yeah. Bye.